Okay, we'll bake that down. Another way to do this would have been to separate the center piece from the top and the bottom piece. If you're finding it too difficult to paint in between those two parts of the model, and then rejoin them in Max once you've painted them up, we'll continue with it like this. As long as we're careful, we should be okay. But again, like I said, if you're finding it hard, if you've got a piece like that and you're finding it hard to paint it on, then separate the piece out. As I said, it's always easier and better to work in pieces as you're texturing a model, and then join them up again after the fact in Max. It'll make your life much easier. You can either join them with the attach command in the edit poly, or you can use a Boolean command, a union, whichever you prefer. Let's pop that one in there. Now I am actually going to switch off, I'm going to switch flat shading back on, because the shadow at the back here is covering up my texture, or where I want to paint the texture in. But because I have these painted in, I can gauge from that where the next one should be. I'm going to move that over to around there and just rotate that a little. Bake it down. Don't worry about the stretching happening here, we're going to paint over that. Rotate that around. Let's see if we can change shading. No, still in black, so rotate that a little bit. Okay, we'll bake that down. This piece is a bit bigger than the top piece, so it'll just take a little bit longer to paint in all the detail. Let's start with maybe this one here. Just going to rotate that around a little bit. Okay, we'll bake it down. We can turn our shading back on now that we're out of the shadow of the model. Line that up. Bake it down. And it looks like I may have missed a spot just in here. Easy enough to fix. We'll just line it up and paint it in. Right. Paint that bit in there. that bit in there. And this one just here, which will be, we'll use this one here. Okay. Let's move back around again. We're nearly joined up here. We'll turn shading back on. We'll line this up a bit. Okay, we'll bake that in. And now we'll join these two pieces together with probably these two here. Actually might paint out that middle part just here. All right. Let's work on this lower edge here now. It's going to pull the texture down to find a brick that's about the same width as the area we want to paint in. So I'm going to go with the, not the first, second, third, but the fourth row, I think. Again, I'm not turning masking on just here. No, it needs to come down a little bit. Just got to be careful not to paint up here in this part. Paint over what we've just done. This top ledge is not a problem. We're going to paint over that anyway. Okay, we'll bake that down. Again, don't worry about the stretching. We'll paint over that in a minute. Bake that in. Bake it down. Just going to rotate that texture a little bit and maybe start it there. Bake it in. Maybe start it there. We'll bake that down. Pull that down just a little bit. I'm going to turn off lighting, shading again. Bake that in. bake that down. Bake it down. Let's see if we can turn that shading back on. It's still a bit dark. So again, select the edge of the texture here to have more control. The closer to the center, the faster it'll spin. So to get more control, when you're doing a rotation, select the edge of the texture here. Might just go up a little bit. Oh, too far. Still too far. Bake that down. Okay, we can turn our shading back on again now. I'm going to pull that down. Bake it in. We're almost joined up again. Maybe from here. No, too high. I'll bake that in. And join these two bits up together with maybe that one there. Pull it down. And probably that bit in here, I think. Okay. Okay, now again, angling the model up. We're going to work on this top edge here. And for this, I'm actually going to turn masking on. I'm actually going to angle the model back a little. If we angle it like this and we accidentally hit here, we'll paint over that texture. We don't want that. Masking won't fix it. So just angle the model up, and that way we have this masked area that will protect us if we go over a little. So don't angle it up too far though, because you don't want to be hitting the texture at too much of an extreme angle, otherwise you'll get stretching happening. So let's work here. Break that down. Maybe from here. Bake it in. From here, rotate that texture around a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. Bake that in. Just going to pull that texture up a bit. Just get rid of that edge there. Okay. Again, I'm going to turn shading off because we're starting to hit that back shadow. You can actually move the lighting around in Mari, but it's easier just to go back to flat shaded mode. Okay. Move it up just a bit. Bake that down. Rotate it around. Okay, we'll bake it down. We'll start it there, rotate our texture a little bit. Let's bake that in. Bake that in. Up a bit, rotate it around a little bit. Move it up a little bit. Okay. Again, I'm just going to move it up slightly. Bake it in. We're almost back around to the edge again. And this is probably the most fiddly part of this model, these ledges. The rest of it, the top and the bottom, aren't quite as fiddly, so. Okay, we'll bake that in. Rotate it around a bit, move it into position. And paint that in, bake it down, rotate it around. Maybe we'll start with this one here. Bake that down, and we'll just join it up with maybe this one here. Okay, we'll bake that down. We'll zoom out a bit and save our project. All right. So now we can work on the top. Zoom out. A bit like that. And we're going to use a large part of the the lower bricks here to paint in the top section, so I think I want to go with the lighter color. Just going to zoom in. I'm going to angle the model slightly back this way so we don't accidentally paint on these bits that we've already worked on, even though we have masking turned on. Always better to be a bit safe than sorry, so just slightly angle the model in. Okay. Now where were we? Oh, right. I did also want to point out with Mari, you can actually paint on the UVs themselves. Let me just remove that texture. So you can, instead of painting on the model, you can paint directly on the UVs. So let's do that for this. I'll just show you what I mean by that. So, for instance, we want to paint on the top and the bottom, which is here. That instead of painting it on the 3D model, let's paint it in the UV, because that might be easier for some of you guys as well. So we'll zoom in. I'm just going to rotate that texture and enlarge it a little bit. Let's start painting on the UVs. This is probably more similar to how you're used to working when you work in 3D in Photoshop. It just shows you that you have that option with Mari as well. Apart from that, it's exactly the same. You hit the Alt key to bake the texture down to the UV map. Maybe you. Press the Alt key and bake it down. Rotate it around. Move it over a little bit. Bake that down. Now we'll maybe work with a couple of these bricks on the other end. Just give it a bit of variety. Okay, we'll bake that down. Rotate our texture around. Scale it up just a bit. Bake that down. This is also good if you're worrying about accidentally painting over those sides. It'll prevent you from making a mistake by painting directly in the UV space. Move that in, bake it down. Okay. Bake that down. We'll bake that down. We'll rotate our texture, maybe use this darker green brick. I've just painted in that line there that I didn't want, so easy enough to paint it out. Bake that down. Bake it down. Just rotate our texture and keep painting around. Bake it down with the Alt key. Maybe move to green brick again. A bit more of the green brick. Maybe some of these bricks on the end here now, just to give it a bit more variety in the texture color. And this one here. Bake that down. Rotate our texture around a bit. Maybe not quite so much. Okay. Bake it in. We're almost back around again. And this bit through the middle here. Okay, we'll bake that down. Let's just jump back into the ortho view for a minute. Now we've painted in that top ring. So you can work in either viewport, whichever you find easier to use. I like the feedback that the 3D view gives me, but sometimes it's quicker and easier just to jump into the UV and do it there. zoom in a bit. So I'm going to go back to the ortho view. I want to check where this outside ring is. So to do that, I'm just going to paint a little bit in here like this. Bake it in. And then check here to see, and I know now that it's this ring here that is that outside ring, so I want to start on that one there. So again, I'm just going to rotate my texture. We'll start around the middle here. I'm going to zoom in a bit. Rotate it around. Bake it down. Rotate our texture and move it. Just scale it up just a bit as well. And it needs to be brought up. Bake that in. Rotate you around. Maybe not quite so much. Bake it in. Let's use a different part of the texture. Bake that down. Okay. Gonna pull in that a little bit more here. Rotate the texture. We'll use a different part, maybe this bit here. Rotate it around. Rotate it around. Bake it down. Rotate our texture again. We're just rotating it to follow the outline of the curve. Going to fix that bit in there. Rotate it around. Just blend it in a bit. Again, we'll move down and use a different part of the texture. Just got to be careful not to paint over the bits on the side that we've already painted in. Much easier to be careful though when you're working in the UV view. Bake that down. Okay, we'll bake it in. We're almost back up to the bit where we started. Bake that down. Rotate our texture around. So we'll blend that in a bit more. And join these two bits together. Okay, we'll bake that down. Let's go back into our ortho view. And now we've done that other top section. So let's work on this bottom section here. And again, I'm just going to paint in a bit of the texture so I can see what I'm doing, which bit I'm working on. Jump back into our UV view. And it's this piece here. Rotate our texture. We'll bake it down. Rotate it around, maybe use a bit of the green. I'm actually going to just blend that in a bit more here. We'll rotate our texture. Bake that down.